Microsoft Power Automate is straightforward to work with. In this video, I'll show you everything you need to get started building your own automated flows, and I'll even show you how easy it is to implement AI. My name is Jensen. Let's get started. To find Microsoft Power Automate, go to office.com and then we sign in, either with this red button or up in the right corner. Sign in with your Microsoft credentials. I will do the same. This will take us to the Office front page. Click these 9 dots up here and find Power Automate down here. We are now in Power Automate, ready to create our first flow. Let's create a flow that will save every attachment whenever we receive an email. So click Create over here in this left menu. We will choose an automated cloud flow because we want a trigger that is something to happen. That is whenever we receive an email with an attachment. So I click here. We will give our flow a name. I can call this Save Email Attachments, like this. And then we will search for triggers. So I'll say when a new email, and here you can see we have a lot of emails triggers. I will choose that when a new email arrives, I will pick the one from Office 365 Outlook. I'll pick that one. We could have chosen all other types of triggers to start our Power Automate flow. It's very powerful. And I click Create. So this is our flow builder. A flow always comes with a trigger, like here. That is whenever we receive an email, and then we can configure the actions downwards from the top. It is done sequential, so whenever we add actions, this one is the trigger, then the first action will be performed, and we will move on when we proceed in the actions. Let me show you. Because when I click this new step, we can see all the connectors available. Here we have AI Builder, desktop flows, whatever. But if I just click this built-in, we can see other functions. We can see the standard functions, some Excel, some Teams. There's even more to it than this one here. We also have these premium ones. These require a premium Office subscription. That is just a standard business subscription, like the one you probably have now. So what we need to do is that whenever an email arrives, we want to do something with each of the attachments in the email. I will find and apply to each. So if I say apply to each, I can just type some of it and these results come up. Here you can see that this is a control. So if I click here, I will just need to select an output from previous steps, and that will be the attachments from up here. But first, let's make our trigger a little bit more specific. So I just go click here. This is a nice way just to edit your triggers and actions. Just click them. Here you can see that it will listen in my inbox folder. That is fine, but I click these show advanced options. I don't want to build a full solution here in the development phase, so I only want to save the attachments whenever I receive an email from myself. So a simple solution, I can easily just remove my name here, then it will work on all emails. I will make sure to include attachments because those are the ones I need to work with. I can also say only with attachments. Yes, I only want this trigger to run whenever there's an email with an attachment. It doesn't make sense to run without any attachments to the email. So this is it. I'll just close this one here. Now the clever part comes. I can select an output to use here in this apply to each, and I will select the output that this trigger generates. To do so, I just click in here, and this dynamic content menu shows up. Very clever. If for somehow it doesn't show up, it will look like this. You can just click this little plus here. It will show up. It can also be gone if you, let me show you, if we do this, it will look like this. You can't find it. This is simply just because it's not wide enough. So you need to maximize your window and you'll find it here. So what we need here is that we need the attachments. So I will scroll a little bit down. I can also search for it here. Here you can see the attachments. If I just search here, you can see that I find all the dynamic content from the trigger with that has the name attachments in it. Make sure you take this one, attachments. So this one is the output from here. That is all the attachments. A mail can hold either 0, then we will not look at it, hence our triggers, but it can have 1, 2 or more attachments. This applied to each will just loop through each of these attachments. We need a place to save these attachments. This could be SharePoint, Dropbox or OneDrive, as we will use in this video. We will open up OneDrive. You can either open in your File Explorer or, as we do, just in the cloud. It will synchronize, so it doesn't matter. But I'll need to create a folder there which I can save my documents to. So again, I open OneDrive. I click the 9 dots here in the Office page. Then I open up OneDrive. So this is my OneDrive folder. I'll create a new folder for this exercise. So I just click New here, and I'll say Folder. I will call this Live just, then I'll click Create. So this is the folder that I will use. I can navigate into it, and here I'll create another folder called Email Attachments. New folder, Email Attachments. This is the place my email attachments will go whenever I receive an email with an attachment in. Back to Power Automate. So this is my flow. Now inside this apply for each, this is very important since we will do it on each of the attachments. I'll click Add an Action. This connector menu comes up again. Here I want to search for Create File. I will need to do it in the OneDrive for Business. But if you don't have a business account, say you have a personal account or a school account, you will need to use, just search for OneDrive, you will need to use the OneDrive actions. They are almost the same as business, not a lot of difference there. But since I have a business account, you most likely have a business account as well if it's on your work. Then you will just click this OneDrive for Business, and now you can see all the actions that we can take. Our action will be to create a file, so I click here. We need a folder path, the name of the file, and then the file content. Let me show you. So the folder path, that is where we want to save this attachment. So if I click here on this one here, this is the root of my OneDrive. I click this arrow here, I go deeper down in my OneDrive. I want to save it here in the Live subfolder, so I click the Live. Email Attachments, that is where my email attachments will go. So I just click here. The file name, now another clever part comes. Because this attachment has a lot of parameters attached, you can get all sorts of information out regarding your attachment. I'll just get the name, so if I go down here, go to the dynamic content and let's try to search for this one. Here I'll say attachment name and we will use this one here. So this one will be the name of the attachment. The file content that will be found similarly, I can just do this one here. Say content and choose the attachment's content. What happened here? Well, our mouse was up here. We needed it to go down here. It's very easy to fix. Just click this X, place your mouse down here, and here you'll see that it automatically suggests that we use the attachment contents. Just click on that. Now we actually have created a working flow. If we start this, this will run until we pause it every day, every minute, every second, whenever we receive an email. So why don't we test it? One important thing is to click Save. So I click Save here. This will save my flow. Now this flow actually runs. So we can actually test it. If I click Test here, I'll click Manually, Save and Test. In a few seconds, it will say that to see it work now, send a new email in your inbox. So let's do so. I will open up a new email here. I need to send it to myself like this. And we also need an attachment. Remember, our trigger will only run whenever we have an attachment in this one here. So I will just right click. I'll create a new file here on my desktop. So right click, new text document. It's just a very simple file. I will attach it to my email. If I click send here, I'll just send it without a subject. That is fine. I'll open this. And then you will see whenever this email got sent, you will see that our flow runs. So I'll fast forward around 15 seconds. And here we can actually see a log. If I click this one here, you can see that this ran. We can even download the outputs. If I click here, you can see a lot of information about our email. Here is, you can see, for example, my Instagram signature on the email that got in here and a lot of other things. We don't need to worry about that. We can also click the apply to each. Here we can see that it says show one of one. This indicates that we only have one attachment to the email. If I click the create file, we can see that we created a file in the folder path live email attachments that is in my OneDrive, and it's called new text document. If I go to my OneDrive, that one we have opened here, open up my email attachments, my document now got saved. And because my OneDrive synchronized to this computer, let me show you here, this is my OneDrive folder. If I go into the live, email attachments is also here. So no magic involved. We could create a flow with just 2 actions. Very, very easy with no code. Congratulations, you built your first Power Automate flow. If we go to Power Automate once more, here we had the history. If I click this little arrow up here, this will take us to the log page. Here we can find details about our flow. We can see the 28-day run history. We only have this flow to be run once. I can click here and then we will get the log data about our flow once more if we wanted that. Let me click back again. We can also see the connections used. We used the Office 365 Outlook. That was to listen to the emails, and then we will use the OneDrive connector, OneDrive for Business. So we can also get some process insights. It will work even better when we have more data. Don't worry about that. So say you are on the homepage, you just logged in and you need to find the flow that you just created. You can click on My Flows. And because I already had a flow that's called Save Email Attachments, that's actually in my everyday production flow, it's called 2 here. That's just the way it is. To edit it, you can just click this little pencil here. And if you click these 3 dots, we can do a lot. Edit is the same as here. We can share it, make someone from our teams owners of this flow. Only do that if you want them to edit it. We can save as, that will save a copy of it with another name. We can send a copy. That's great if you want to share it with someone from your team, but you don't want them to edit on your flow. You'll just send them a copy. That's a separate branch that they can work on. We can export it to a zip file. We can see our run history. That was the one we clicked on to see whenever our flow ran. Some analytics. We can turn it off. Say we don't want to have it run, but we want to have it listen to our email inbox. Then I just click turn off. Finally, I could delete it. However, I will not do it right now because we will come back. A great place to start whenever we want to learn Power Automate is the template section. Find it over here in the left by clicking the templates. Here you can find a lot of templates. You can even find templates that's almost the same as we just created. A great benefit of this is that you can dissect it. So say you want to learn something about SharePoint flows, then you can just search for the SharePoint by clicking enter. These are all the SharePoint templates available. You can click one of them and then you can see how Microsoft built a SharePoint flow. Let me show you. So if I search for SharePoint item like this, we will take this one here. When an item in a SharePoint list is modified, send an email. So if I click, you can see that these are the connections. We need to have a SharePoint, an Office 365, and the Office 365 users. And I click continue. Here I need a SharePoint site address and a SharePoint list name. I prepared that, so if I go back to my Office, I click these 9 dots up here, find my SharePoint, that one is here, and open it. So here I have my SharePoint site. I'll use the one called Company Live. It's just a sample demo site. And here I created a list. It's called Docs. It has 3 items in it. 1, 2, and 3. That's the idea. The names are here and the age are here. So the logic here is that whenever we modify this list, an existing item, then we want something to happen. So now this, whenever we edit in SharePoint, is our trigger. Let's go back to Automate, because I need to provide the SharePoint site address. I click this one here and I pick the Company Live, and it will automatically find my docs list. So I just pick it here and then I click create. So this one will have our flow created. This is a standard one. We want to edit and we want to learn from it. So if I click edit here, you can see that this is the way it looks when an existing item is modified here. So whenever we modify an item in our list, something will happen. This is our trigger. This one will get our profile, that is just the Office profile 365, that is information about me. And here you can see that we send an email to ourselves whenever this happens. This will have some information in it. We will not dig into it, but this is a really, really great way to learn, just to go through some of the templates. We can even try it because we have set it up. It will run. So if I go up here to my SharePoint list and say that I just want to edit the Max one here. So let's give Max make him 1 year younger. I will click save here and then my flow will run. Before we clicked the test and then it waited for it. You can wait forever here because we have not clicked test. However, our flow will run because we created it, and beware of that. Whenever you create a flow, it will run until you stop it or delete it. So if I click back here, in a few seconds, when I refresh this page, we will have a run here because we edited an item in our list. So if I just click refresh here, so wait some seconds and then you can click refresh here on this page. If I do so, you can see that it ran 18 seconds ago. So if I click in here, you can also see the log just as before. It will open up, and while it does that, well, it's here. You can see that each of these actions, the trigger and the actions, run successfully, hence this check mark. If I open up my email and see if we have an email, we do. This is it. So this is the email that we sent it here with some custom dynamic information in it. You can see item 2 was modified by Jensen, and again, blah, blah, blah. We could add more information because this email will not make a whole lot of sense, but it worked. We created a simple flow from the templates and we can easily modify it. So far we talked about flow types with an automated trigger, that is whenever something happens. And if we go up here and click create once more, these are the flows that we can choose from. The automated cloud flow, that was when we had a trigger, for example, whenever we received an email or when a SharePoint item on a list was modified. We also had an instant cloud flow. That is, whenever we press a button, this flow type will run. A scheduled cloud flow, that is, whenever a certain time comes in, that could be 4 o'clock in the evening. Whenever that time is, our flow will run. So we can schedule it to run every day, every hour, whatever we want. Quite clever. We also had the desktop flow. that is RPA, Microsoft Power Automate for Desktop. I created an entire course, which you can find by clicking the video up here in the right corner. You can also have a business process flow, that is with human intervention, a bit more advanced flow type. And finally, we have the process advisor, that is process mining, whenever we take large amount of process data from our organization, put it into Power Automate and let Power Automate help us automating things. We will now modify our existing flow. That was the one with the email attachments, because it has a built-in, not an error, but a thing that is not optimal. Let me show you. So to find it, just click the My Flows again and take the Save Email Attachments. I will edit it, so I click Edit here. And this one will open, because whenever I send this email, if an attachment has the same name as the previous one, it will just get overridden. Let me show you. If I just minimize this and open up a new email, I'll just pick an attachment with the same name, and I'll send it to myself like this. I'll click Send. And anyway, my flow will run. And now it will save the attachment with the same name. And when an attachment is saved with the same name as the previous one, it will just override the previous attachment or the previous file. So let us just refresh this. We can see that our flow ran fine. So if I go in here to email attachments and refresh this as well, we can see that we now have only one file edit. It got modified a few seconds ago, but it's with the same name. Not very clever. So let's give our attachment a prefix. I'll go to Power Automate for Desktop. To edit it again, I just edit here. And we can use the date. Because when the flow runs, this will happen in a certain point in time. We can get this date down to seconds or even milliseconds if we want it, and then we can use it in the file name, because this is unique. That is a developer's best practice to use the date as a dynamic part. So if I just go up here to this plus, I can put in a step right here. I'll click this plus, add an action. So if I just search for current time, we can get the current time here. So just pick this one here. This one will only get the current time. We cannot configure it. That's fine. It will give us an output that is the current time. So let's just try to run it. I can just click test now, manually, save and test, and now it will listen. So I will send another email. So email, we'll send a lot of emails here. It will be the same as before, just with an attachment. So then I click send, and I will go back in here. We can see that we are waiting for Power Automate to pick up that we just received an email. This one is good, that when you test it, it's good to click that one, because then you can just sit and wait until your flow runs. I will fast forward this, however, to now. Your flow ran successfully. I wanted you to show the current time, because if I click here, you can see that this current time gives us an output, and it's in a weird date time format. Actually, see, it's 2022. It's July the 20th. That's the date today, and with the timestamp on. We cannot use this in our file name. It has colons, and it looks really weird. So for logging purposes, we want to get our own time zone. It's very straightforward. So I click edit up here. This will edit my flow again. So if I click this plus here, I'll click add an action. So now I want to convert the time zone that we got up from the current time. I wanted to convert it to my time zone. And I also want to make sure that the date time format is in a better format. So if I just search for convert time zone, so like this, I'll find it down here. So the base time, what time do I need to convert? That's the output from the current time. Again, I can just click in here, and you can see over here, current time, that is the output. So if I click that one, now I got that in place. I need to tell Power Automate which time zone this is. And these ones here that system generated, they are always in UTC. So if I click this here, drop down, I'll scroll down to UTC, that one is here. Take that one here between -1 and 0. So that one was here. The destination time zone, that is your time zone. I'm in Copenhagen, so I'll pick +1, but choose wherever you are situated. I'll click the code here. Here I can now specify how I want my date time to look like. I can choose these prefixes. However, these are not really well suited for my file format. I'll say enter custom value. And here I will put in a little bit of the .NET code. So months. So this is basically a code for how I want my output to look like. Don't worry, you will learn this very easy with just working with Power Automate a few times. For now, just write it. So here I have the years, month, days, and I want the hours in a 24-hour format. That is great, so we don't have two equals file names. So then I want minute and seconds. I can also write something like FF if I wanted a millisecond. However, we'll just go with this. So if I save it now, I have now saved my flow. I need to apply it whenever I create my file, because I will use this output from the convert time zone. I'll use that in my file name. So if I go to apply to each, go to the create file. So here in the file name, I will have my date before the name, and I'll have an underscore and the attachment name. So if I go down to the file name and I'll jump in front of the attachment's name, now I wanted this converted time. So I can just pick it again from this dynamic content. If I do that, you can see that we have them right after each other. I need an underscore in here. So I'll just go one back with the arrow and have an underscore like this. That's how easy it is. We have now modified a flow so we don't overwrite our data, and we get a nice log timestamp on our files. So if I click test again, I'll just manually test it like this. So to see it work, let's send another email. So I'll say new. I will run it again, drag this one in, send it. Same procedure as last time. We will wait a few seconds. I'll pause the video until the flow has ran. There you go, where our flow is running. We will have our flow ran successfully right now. And if I go to my email attachments here in the cloud, I refresh this one here, you can now see that we create unique values for our unique file name values for our attachments. Isn't that clever? But say I really want to create a folder instead of modifying these file names, no problem, very easy. I'll show you. So we go back to Power Automate and then we'll click edit. So now we will not touch the file name. So I'll delete these two from here, but I'll create a folder. Just like up here, we just say folder path. Then we can have a / and then we can have our converted time. So I'll just use it up here, just as before. I can just test it. I'll save and test. And let's try to send one more email to see the result. It's very straightforward. There's no magic involved in developing automation here in Power Automate. So let's send this and our flow will run and we will have a nicely created folder. Again, our flow ran successfully. If I go into my OneDrive folder, you can now see that we have created a folder with the date time. And if I open that, our attachment is in here. Similarly, it will be here in my OneDrive. I can open it here. It's also here as well. But that's logic, since this cloud here, this is just this desktop version is just a mirror of this. So no magic here as well. Now, as promised, it is AI time. Very straightforward. So this is the course page I prepared. You'll find it in the link in the description below. We'll need some sample documents because our process now will be to extract data out of documents, so we will need some documents to do so. You can of course use your own, but let me just minimize these. I have them here. You can just download the sample documents. You can also find them on Microsoft if you prefer that. Just click here and choose the English documents. I will just take the sample documents like here. Here are my documents. So I will just download all of these. This will go into a zip folder. I'll just drag it out to my desktop so I can work with it. So I'll right click and I'll just extract it to a folder. So if I open up this folder, we have 12 PDFs. Let me open one of them, for example. This is an invoice. I can zoom a little bit out. This is an invoice with information. We want to extract information. Similarly, if I take this Contoso tree, you can see that this is, since this is a PDF, but it's not a text PDF, it's an image PDF. No problem, and the quality is quite poor. No problem. Our flow will be able to extract the data we want out of it. So let me just close this and let's create a flow that let us do what we want. So I will open up my Power Automate once more. Here we will be creating a new flow. But first, let's look at the AI Builder and how powerful and easy it is to use. So if I click this AI Builder over here on the left, I'll click Explore. This one will give us a lot of predefined AI capabilities. I can choose some of the predefined ones, or I can choose the custom ones. You can see this custom up here, custom. We will just choose the predefined, but you can customize your own models very, very easy. Check the video up in the right corner to see how easy it is. Anyway, we will just click here. Here I can test it by clicking the Upload New. Let's just take Contoso 5, open it. Here you can see that the document will open here. That's an image again, it's quite poorly scanned. The model will now analyze it with AI, and here you can see that we actually have extracted all the information out, including the items down here. If I hold my mouse over, you can see that we have information and a confidence score. This is how confident our AI model is that this is the right information. Everything looks fine. So now let's use it in the flow. Don't click the use in flow here. You will just get a standardized flow, which we can't really use. So if I just click this X up here, we will be creating our own. So I'll click create here. And first we will just manually run our flow. So if I click the instant cloud flow here, I can call it something. I will call mine document processing like this, and I'll manually trigger my flow and I'll click create. And if I click this trigger, I can add some input. So click here, I can see I can add a file. If I click here again, I'll say file content. Please select file or image. We can modify the text here. So I'll just say, please select document to process like this. Then we can add steps to it. We'll do this by clicking the new step here. We want to extract the information out of these documents. Since these are invoices, we can use the predefined invoice model. You don't have to use these predefined ones. You can just create your own, but for simplicity, we will use that one. So I'll say invoice. Here we will have the extract information from invoices. If I click that, I can now say I want to define the invoice file, that is select an invoice to process. If I click here, our friend comes up here. This is the file content. So I can just choose that one here. This will fill in the file content. And let's test our flow. So if I just click save over here, I will click test once this has been saved. I'll test manually, test. And here you can see that it asks for file content. If I click the import, choose one of your documents, and you'll click open, and we'll click run flow. So my flow will run, nothing will really happen. We will just extract the information out. So my flow is still running. Now my flow ran successfully. And if I click in here, you can see that we have actually extracted the information out. For example, the customer address, and the confidence scores, the invoice date and the invoice total, and so forth. It works. So now we can actually start to type these information into another system. We will use Excel here, but you can use all sorts of API connectors that you want. So then click Edit here. I'll first need to create my Excel sheet that these data will go into. So I'll click the Microsoft Office Home, and then I'll find the Excel one. If your Excel is not here, just click the 9 dots again and find it up here. So I'll open up Excel. And we will just create a new blank workbook. So let's just rename it and put it inside our live folder. It only works when your Excel document is in SharePoint or OneDrive. And since this one here is per default created in OneDrive, it will work. But let's modify the information a bit. I'll call this document results instead of just a blank one. And then I'll click this because we'll move it to a new folder. We created this live folder here. So if I go in here, you can see that my email attachment is here. Let's just create it inside a folder here. So I will just say plus, I'll say document processing. Then I'll click create. I'll go in there and my Excel sheet will now be moved here. Fine. Then I just need to create a structure. So here I'll say date in the first column. Then I'll say invoice number. I'll say vendor. Then I'll say customer. I'll say tax. Then I'll say total. I can just do this just to make sure that we can see everything. So now I want to mark this. It's very important that you do whatever I do now. And then you'll click Format as a Table. We can only work with this Excel sheet if it is formatted as a table. I can choose one of these designs. It doesn't really matter. I'll just take this blue one. My table has headers. Yes, it does. It's actually only the headers I created right now. The data, the actual rows will come from my invoices. So then I'll click OK. So now you can see that it got formatted as a table. Let's give it a more descriptive name. So if I click inside in this table, go up to table design, it's per default, it is table 1. Here I'll say document processing results. So it's a bit more describing. This is the best practice. Always do nice naming. It will make it easier for you and your colleagues, especially in the future. So now we have created an output. We'll go back to Power Automate. Because we want to process these information that we got out, we want to get them into Excel. To do so, we'll find another action. I'll search for add a row into a table. That one is here. So pick it, that one. We need a location, and you'll just need to specify where you placed your Excel sheet. Here you can see that we can choose between OneDrive, SharePoint. I'll just take the OneDrive for Business. Select the document library, OneDrive, and then we'll find the file in my OneDrive. We called it something like live. That one is here. Go in here. We put it in the document processing folder like this, and then we will choose this Excel sheet. So now when you click this drop down, our table got here. Very clever. And whenever we chose our table, you can see our headers here. Now it is just to map these things. So if I click in here, we will use the dynamic content that we got from up here. So in the date, I'll have the date. And instead, sometimes, instead of just scrolling these things through, I'll just find a date. And here I'll take the invoice date as text. I'll pick that one. The invoice number, I can just search for invoice number. And since there's no invoice number, it's called invoice ID. That's fine. But Power Automate is so clever. So even though I just search for something similarly, it detects that this is the thing that we want to do and display the invoice ID. Pretty clever. Now we want the vendor. So if I go down here, search for vendor, I want the vendor name just. You can extract all sorts of information like address and all that. But feel free to do it in your own instance. We'll just make it simple here. So I'll take the vendor name. I'll also take the customer name here. So if I find the customer name like this, I'll take the tax as well, and this is just manual work. I'll just take the total tax as text. So if I search for invoice total like this, take the one called invoice total, text. So now I have everything in place. So let's test it. We will test it manually once more. Here we are just using the Excel Online for Business for the first time. So I'll just continue here. Now we can import a document. If I import here, and just pick one of these by random. Don't worry, we'll create a flow that will process all our documents in a little bit. So now I click run. Now my flow will run. You can see that our flow is currently running. Again, these usually take some time to process, around 20 seconds. So let me fast forward. That's it, our flow ran successfully. We can go to our Excel sheet. Let me first resize it. So I click this triangle up here, I double click here, and here's my data. That's how easy it is. But you'll see that these two are in kronas, not in US dollars. That's because krona is my regional format. To fix that, I will click here, press Control, and take the other column as well. Then I will click this drop down up here. I'll say more number formats. I'll say currency. And here I'll click the drop down for kronas, and then I'll find the dollar sign and I'll take the United States like this. That's it. I'll click OK. So now these ones will come in dollar formats. Let's test if it works for one or two of the other invoices. So if I click here, I'll click Edit. I'll click Test once more. We will test it. So let's import another one here. Let's take the number 4. We will run the flow. We will click Done, and I'll fast forward to whenever this flow has finished. That's it. Our flow ran successfully. And if I go back here, a new row has been added to our data. Very clever. But usually you will not have a flow that will just run whenever I click it. That is quite manual. I need to click the button. I need to find the invoice. So what you can do, you can of course have a flow that will email you the invoice, or your colleague will email one inbox and then we will extract it. But you can also have a drop folder. So let's create one in our OneDrive. I can either do it in the cloud up here or in my desktop. So let me drag this one in here. So here we have our live folder. We will be creating it in the document processing. So I'll right click here, new folder. Let's just call this drop folder. So we want to, whenever an invoice gets dropped in this folder, we want our flow to run and extract the information out of it. That is quite clever. Let me show you. But since our action will not see, if we create a new file in here, this one is in OneDrive, and if our documents, that is our invoices, is also in the same OneDrive, it will not be counted as new files. So they need to come from an external place. So let's just move them. We have them on our desktop. So if I just click this PC desktop, we have them here. So we want to move them. And again, this is just so they will be treated as new files. They are in the same OneDrive, so they're technically not new files. So what I will do here, let me just go one back. I'll just copy this or cut it. Then I'll just place it in the root of the C drive. So I'll right click and paste, or just Control V. So now my invoices are here in the C drive. I can now create my automation to make my drop folder work. And let me just open up the drop folder once more. Those ones are in here. This is my drop folder. That is where I want to drop my invoices to. So I go back and click Edit. So now we will not be manually triggered our flow. If I click these 3 dots here and then I click Delete. Yes, that's fine. I deleted my trigger. We need to create once more. And here we will go into the OneDrive for Business, and then we will look for a trigger. We need to look for when a file is created. So whenever a file is created in a certain folder, our flow will run. Like just this one here. What folder do I want to look in? Here. We will go to the live folder once more. document processing. Here's our drop folder. So we will look inside this. There's also advanced options, include subfolders. Well, that doesn't really matter. We'll just leave it as it is. Then we will need to change the input in here to match the output from up here. So instead, now you can see it disappeared because our trigger disappeared. Here we will just choose the file content like this. Now let's save it and let's test it. So it's actually running. We don't need to click the test. We can just go out here to our overview and then we can start running it. And the trigger was whenever we moved something inside our drop folder. So here, let me just find it. So I'll go to the C drive of my computer. And here I will have the OneDrive, that was the name I called it. So if I move these ones over here, my automation will run. If I move them over here, I have now moved them to OneDrive. This will take a little while. This will take like 1 minute. So I'll fast forward. And then when I come back, we can see the results. And if I go to my flow once more, I refresh it. You can see that we have processed things like 8 seconds ago, 7 seconds, 6, 4, 4, 4. It looks like our flow has ran. And if I go into my documents results, you can see here that we have extracted all the information out of the invoices. That's how easy Power Automate is. The next lesson is here on your screen.